Welcome to the Sports Report podcast with Ben, Ricky, and Jalen. We cover trending and popular topics surrounding the world of professional and on-campus sports. With each of us having a unique sports background, we give different perspectives and insight on the current climate of sports news. And now, here are your hosts.
Welcome back to the Sports Report pod. I'm Ben. I'm here with Jalen and Ricky. Class is in session. I almost forgot. And today
Class has been in session.
It has been. It's exciting. We got the playoffs here. We've got the last few of the play-in coming up. And then we're also going to go through awards today because awards are going to be coming in next week.
Exciting.
So it's a great time for basketball right now. But let's start with the play-in. We'll start with your Kings.
Let's go.
Jalen. They upset the Warriors. Might have ended their dynasty.
That feels good.
And I know after last year, that's got to feel really good.
Yeah. After a grueling 7-game series and little Bay Area rivalry started last year, it just, glorious 2.5 hours of basketball watching at 7 o'clock that day. But I remember thinking during the pregame, right before that game was starting, like, okay, the Kings are going to go up by – I remember thinking the Kings are going to go up by 15 at some point in this game. Probably going to be early. But as a viewer, I cannot get excited when we get a lead because obviously with Curry and how explosive he is and just overall Golden State, how fast they play and they can put up points so fast. And just also with them blowing the leads at the end of the regular season. But they went up big, and I was just not showing any emotion at all. And then the lead swells to 25, 26 towards the end of the game. Time's ticking down, and it's like, oh, my goodness, they might get it done. And then a couple dagger shots and Clay going 0 for 10 from the field. And the Warriors really had no answer for any of the Kings' offense in the second half. And I was very surprised that the Kings were able to shoot from three consistently the whole game. Keegan Murray had 32. He had probably one of the best games of his career.
100%. That's definitely his best playoff type game.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and he was so big in the series last year as a spot up 3-point shooter and an on-ball defender, and he kind of took that role into he just was in that same role but multiplied. He started off the game guarding Steph, and just the shots he was taking, and he's getting much more confident as a one-on-one scorer too. So, but we got the Pels now who dominate us 0-5 against the Kings.
No Zion, though.
Or Kings are 0-5 against them.
Yep.
But, yes, I'll let you guys talk about that a little bit, Ben. The Lakers got past
we did.
Got past the Pels. And Zion was feasting during that game.
I don't know if we would have won
he was giving you
stayed in the game.
Yeah, but he comes out with 3.5 minutes left, and that turned the tide of the whole game because the Pelicans, that place was so loud.
It was. And he was their only really productive scorer that whole game.
Yeah.
CJ had a rough game. Ingram wasn't even getting closing minutes. I know we talked about that. It was only his second game back, so he played 24 minutes in the whole game. Zion was going to carry them. He may have gotten them the win, but once he was out, it was like, okay, they got nothing now. Even with all the depth on their roster. And down the stretch, D'Lo hit the corner three to seal it.
Mm-hmm.
Reeves was driving to the paint, and the defender, for some reason, decided to double him when D'Lo's in the corner. I get it if it's a non-shooter, but D'Lo's been 41% this year. So left him open. He hit the shot, kind of getting his reputation back as a clutch player after last year. Against Denver, he struggled, and hopefully against Denver this year, he'll be better too. But, yeah, big win. And now they'll take on Denver. Ricky, what was your takeaway from that game?
Yeah, it was getting a little spooky for y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Towards the end of the game, Jose Alvarado was torching. He was doing very good. Finding guys, making shots. Yeah, playing good defense. I was kind of surprised that they didn't have Brandon Ingram come in towards the end of the game. I know that he's trying to still find his groove and still trying to find himself back in the rotation because of his injury. But once Zion came out, I'm thinking, all right, they got to bring him back in and try to incorporate him somehow, try to get him involved. I mean, it's a close game. It's not a must win, but you guys got to, need to win this game. I was surprised there, but they're doing good. I like how the Lakers closed it out. They figured out a way. LeBron put the bootstraps on and got to work.
Yep.
AD was good down the stretch. D'Lo was good down the stretch, like you say, made the corner three. As far as the sack game, I was pleasantly surprised on how well they did with Curry the second half.
Yeah.
I seen them creeping back up a little bit, going to half, and I thought Curry was going to explode the third half, but they really contained him. They did a good job containing him, and Keegan Murray was consistent, which was good. I think if Keegan Murray stays consistent and steps up to the plate and takes kind of that Malik Monk role, and the backups like Davion Mitchell and everybody, Trey Lyles, that are also playing like consistent, sold you on your parlay.
I know,
but he was
one more three from him.
He was still doing good finding the guy.
He had a good game.
He was finding the hot hand. You got to give it to Keegan Murray if he's like what was he? He was like maybe like he was like 5 for 5 first.
Yeah, he was on fire.
He was on fire. So you got to give him the ball when he's doing that. But I really liked both of the plays. They were good games, very good games.
And Zion. Sorry to interrupt, but going back to that Lakers game, Zion was visibly frustrated when he was coming off.
Yeah.
After he got hurt, and I know so much of the sports basketball world has kind of put this stigma on him of, maybe not being the most mentally tough. You could see he clearly wanted to be out there in a playoff game, and he was feasting. There's no reason why, he would have left for that reason. But I think the talking point that the injury does bring up is his conditioning and his physique and his style of play with that too. He's so physical and he's so athletic that he can do all the stuff that he's doing right now with the build that he has, which is kind of a double-edged sword now that we see. It's hard to stop, but at the same time, it might be hard to sustain. Yeah. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, and that dude's so big. And what was it? Was it ankle or?
I think hamstring.
Yeah, it was something.
Soreness.
He's out for a
few
weeks though from it, so it's not like something he could have kept playing through.
Yeah,
it's difficult because just like how you said how big he is, I'm not a doctor or no NBA trainer or nothing. I think the way he jabs, the way he takes his his fake steps, lands, just different stuff like that is kind of the reason why he might be experiencing those issues. Because the way he jabs, it's like 100%. You don't have to jab 100% every time, especially. You're that size, the defender is going to be intimidated regardless of whatever move you make. So jab stepping that hard I don't think is necessary.
It's like he's almost too aggressive with how he just moves around in general, just walking, even if he's not on the basketball court.
Even when he walks, he's stomping like a giant.
Yeah,
even when he came off the court,
he was
doing
it. Yeah.
Yeah, Smoothie King Center was shaking. There was a 1.5 earthquake in New Orleans.
So I know when he came into the league, everyone was like, yeah, he needs to work on that, and still a problem here. I think this is 4th year in the league. This was one of his more healthy seasons for sure, but then in the biggest game of the year, he gets hurt after 41 points I think he had at that point. So it's tough, but I think going back to how you're talking about Brandon Ingram coming back in, obviously he didn't, but against the Kings, I think he'll play a lot more minutes regardless of...
He's going to have to.
Regardless of if he's in a rhythm, they'll keep him on the floor to close out the game. Just because you've seen it, he's an all-star caliber player. He can hit the big shots even if he's having a 5 for 19 shooting night. He could hit that one that wins the game. So I expect him to be a lot more involved in the offense, even though it'll be his 3rd game back.
Yeah. The record shows it, 5-0 against the Kings, but it doesn't need to be said that the Pelicans match up super well against Sacramento. Their game against the Lakers, I know us three were talking about during that game that Jonas Valanciunas barely plays whenever the Lakers go head-to-head against the Pelicans. Yep. It's just kind of a tough
LeBron
matchup.
and AD just spam the pick and roll.
Yeah, they hunt him on the perimeter. But with the Kings, Valanciunas does a really good job, especially this season, of holding Sabonis down. He's the type of defender, low-post guy, physical guy that will give someone like Sabonis who wants to work north to south and back to the basket and make plays out of the post, it gives him trouble. Sabonis' numbers have not been very good against Valanciunas this year, so it'll be a completely different game for the Pelicans versus how the Lakers game was. And the Kings they have so much firepower that Pelicans depth that you mentioned earlier, Ben, is going to, I think, work out in New Orleans' favor. They can roll different lineups out there and have equal success, whereas the Kings, we saw it against the Warriors when Fox and Sabonis aren't on the floor together. Curry was just doing whatever he wanted, and they had no answer on the offensive end because Draymond, kind of like Valanciunas, was taking out Sabonis on the offensive side altogether. So not the most ideal situation as a Kings fan, and not the most ideal situation as Pelicans fans out there either with Zion being out. So I think it's going to be a lot of who can close out the fourth quarter and who can mediate the other team's runs.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's critical this game that Sabonis starts hitting that mid-range.
Yeah.
Because they're going to do the same. They're going to do the same thing. Valanciunas is going to sink. It's going to be fool's gold. They're going to keep on giving the ball to Sabonis, let him shoot. They're going to keep on letting him shoot. And then he's not going to be able to drive like he was doing against Draymond or whoever else was guarding him because Valanciunas is 7'2" or 7 foot, whatever.
Yep.
So it's going to be more difficult for him to be able to get that drive action. They're probably going to put him in a lot of action with De'Aaron Fox like they did in the latter part of the game.
I was just going to talk about that too, Ricky. Can you talk about a little bit to the audience the adjustment that Sacramento made in that second half of Draymond sagging off Sabonis and how they were kind of getting points off that with Fox?
Yeah, so essentially they had Sabonis in the paint, and Draymond was sagging off of him. He was defending him. It was man. De'Aaron Fox, whoever else had the ball on the perimeter, would get the ball into Sabonis, and it would look like an open shot for Sabonis, but he wasn't hitting the other day.
Yeah.
So they kept on letting him shoot. The Golden State was making runs, and eventually Sacramento got into more action with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. So they'll start doing high pick and rolls, the passing and follow, which is pretty much De'Aaron Fox will pass it to Sabonis, and then De'Aaron Fox will come across or come around him, and it'll be like a screen, and just other things to kind of get him involved. Off drives, off different looks, and Sabonis is such a good player. If the drive's not there, he's gonna be able to kick it out to open man, like we were seeing him do with Trey Lyles threes, Keegan Murray threes, and all that above. So I think if Valanciunas is on him early, Sacramento's gonna get into those types of actions real early.
A lot of movement. Yeah. Out of all that stuff that you said, I think the most important for them was when Draymond would sag off and Sabonis would kind of be like 18, 19, 20 feet out, kind of like top of the free throw line-ish, and Draymond would just be all the way in the paint, like Ben Simmons style.
Yep.
That allowed, Fox or Keegan Murray or whoever it is to, be on the wings or be in the corner, whatever, pass it up there. Draymond's all the way down. You could pass and follow, go get the ball, right? Now the defender who's on the hip of the guard, he has to get over that screen, but Draymond's all the way in the paint, so it's kind of like a 2-on-1. So you can't step up to switch. So it's going to be an open mid-range shot for Fox instead of Sabonis.
And that's kind of what the Warriors do too. Like that's where all this offense comes from.
Yeah,
is the
Mike
old
Brown.
Warriors.
And that's Mike Brown for sure, coming over from that staff. We need to get a clipboard, by the way. Like LeBron and JJ Redick's podcast.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
When you were describing it, I was literally thinking this is something JJ would be.
I saw you like he needs a clipboard. He's writing right there on the table.
I was trying to write on my notebook. Yeah. No, but it's really interesting. I like we're gonna talk about the East playing because that was a sweaty matchup too. But just the way these coaches are scheming stuff and how each team plays against each other.
Totally,
it's so different from regular season.
Absolutely,
in the playoffs, it's like
adjustments are so important.
Yeah,
that's what.
And they make them quicker. They make them quicker too.
That's what I was saying. Is like my favorite part of the playoffs is all the adjustments.
Yeah,
because like game to game, obviously when it's a series, but the play-in, it's like you got to make them at halftime. And the Warriors were obviously down, so they made adjustments. But Mike Brown adjusted so well you didn't even really notice it. Like we said, we just broke down the play.
Yeah.
That kind of got them because they were just leaving Sabonis the whole first half, and they were able to make that adjustment. And that came up huge. Let's move on to the East. I know you wanted to talk about that. Break down some of the matchups for us. We had Sixers, Heat, and then we had the Bulls and Hawks.
Yeah, the Sixers and Heat. That was a good one. Jimmy got hurt, unfortunately. I think
he's out, by the way, for the next game.
He's out. I think in the beginning of the game, the Heat were doing very good job containing Joel Embiid with they're running its zone. We used to run it back in my college. It's called Fist. Well, it's like it was a little variation. It's kind of like a 2-3, but it's hybrid. It's kind of like a 2-3/man with a lot of rotation, and they're really just making sure that Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid don't get the ball.
Yep.
And they're making sure whoever you're just gonna have to win with somebody else, and that's what they got
win
done.
With
That's
Batum.
what Batum did, baby.
Nicholas Batum came through and got him the game. I think if Jimmy was healthy the whole game, though, I think the Heat would have pulled it off at the end.
I think so,
I was
too.
kind of suspect the 76ers towards the end of the game. They weren't doing a good job taking care of the ball. But yeah, that zone was doing a good job on the Sixers. I think that teams are going to be looking at that to kind of exploit and match that.
New York is a very good defensive team, and Thibodeau's a good defensive coach, so he's definitely going to be.
Thibodeau's going to run some.
He's going to be scheming some stuff up for them. It's going to be interesting for sure.
But it has to be crazy too without Julius Randle.
They've been so good without him, though.
Sixers, to your point, are gonna look to feed him the ball as much as possible, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, it'll be Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein.
That's gonna be an ultimate chess match of, you got this guy that maybe doesn't match up against us when we're healthy. All of a sudden, we're not healthy, but the roster, how they're placed, Tibbs, like we said, it's just such a fun matchup that is. So, yeah.
I kind of think they're gonna leave Embiid 1-on-1 in that series.
No way.
Well, let me explain why. Mitchell Robinson is a good defender. Like, obviously, Embiid's a different player. He's still going to get his. But they have all these defenders that could go on Maxey and take him out of the series. They could rotate between OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo's even a solid defender.
Go out there.
I think they're going to try and get Maxey to have a bad series and make it Embiid and the others stepping up. I think they'll run some zone, like you said. They get Embiid out of the game at times, but I feel like Maxey's going to be their priority one.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying they're going to run zone. They probably will run man. Mitchell Robinson, he can't guard Joel Embiid, but he's big.
Yeah, he could.
They're definitely every time. This is what teams do to Joel Embiid. They'll play 1-on-1. If he gets the ball, it's automatic trap.
Yeah.
Rather not on Maxey's man. It's gonna be somebody else coming
100%.
rather from the corner or however they run their defense. I think they're gonna do that for sure, and that's a good point about Maxey. They're probably gonna be able to switch if they have DiVincenzo and Josh Hart on them. So a lot of the pick and rolls and the stuff that they do incorporated in their offense is gonna be really difficult. It's gonna be good.
Wow.
They're gonna be able to.
That's
That is
going
gonna
to
be
be a really good
That's
series.
really gonna be an
Interesting,
ultimate
yeah.
chess match.
It's gonna
Yeah.
They match up so
Yeah.
well against each other, and they're so different.
Yeah, I think with Randall, it's easily the Knicks in this series, but without him, it'll be 5,
It's gonna be
6,
interesting.
7 game series.
Yeah, we got to look for Buddy Hield and like Batum and Tobias Harris and guys like that to step up. I think those are the key guys. If they don't step up, then I have the Knicks
100%.
in 5. They might sneak. The 76ers might sneak a game in just because they have Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be 5 if they don't step up to the plate. One of them at least.
Yeah. Let's shift now to the Bulls and the Hawks game. I know you watched that. What was your biggest takeaway from that game?
My biggest takeaway was Kobe White is out here cooking 2 All-Stars.
Yep.
Sending them home.
Yep.
It was good for the Bulls. I really like how Kobe White has improved as a player. They talked about him a lot on the broadcast yesterday, and I really liked his journey to the NBA and how he said, coming into the league, it was difficult for him because he didn't know his role. He had Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, a lot of these players taking his time. Lonzo Ball, they had Lonzo. So now he's just figuring out, and I love it. As far as Atlanta, I'm confused. They don't play defense. Their offense was lackluster yesterday. Trey, his hand is messed up. I understand that.
I think he's gone, by the way.
You think he's gone?
I think he's gone this summer.
They have to do something
It's a
because
perpetual cycle.
I'm looking at the game yesterday. I'm like, it's 2 All-Stars. They're getting beat by DeMar DeRozan, of course, DeMar DeRozan, but Kobe White
and DeRozan was big factors.
But that's what I like about the league right now. Like the role players, the skill gap is getting close to all-star level, and it's showing really. It's really showing and exposing these teams that are having these 2 All-Star players, 3 All-Star players. Like the monster teams aren't no more, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from at least what reports have been, this was like at the trade deadline, so who knows if they've changed. Trey would be moved in the off season. They would give DeJounte a half season to prove to be like their franchise point guard. And then maybe move him at the deadline next year, maybe keep him based on that. But it looked like Trey was going to be gone. They're definitely going to split up that backcourt.
Where do you see him going?
Lakers, Spurs have been linked. I don't want him on the Lakers personally. I feel like once LeBron's gone, I want to keep the core we have and add a star via free agency, not through a trade, because then we're kind of breaking up all the talent, and then it's just AD and whoever we bring in. Because to get Trey, it would be like Reeves, Rui, and picks, and then you're not re-signing D'Lo at that point either because you can't have that backcourt. So it's like
I think the Spurs might be.
Spurs with Wemby would be very interesting.
That'd be fire.
I think that's probably the best fit. And they have a lot of Atlanta's picks from when they traded for DeJounte, so they could kind of just say, okay, here's your picks back. You can go rebuild, and we'll take Trae Young to pair with Wemby.
But they might be good. Those picks might be worth not might be worth anything.
That's
which
true.
Is like
that's true. It's a tough situation.
The NBA will make it happen. They'll make something happen for Wemby for sure.
Yeah,
I'm counting on them.
That's why the West, like this year, we've talked about it, is already really crazy. Next year, we're going to have the Grizzlies healthy again.
Yeah.
The Spurs are going to be better with Wemby because they're probably going to be aggressive this offseason. So there'll be probably like...
Even Houston.
Houston will be better too. So we'll have like 13 teams in the West.
I was always thinking about that. Like, out of the 10 teams, like, there's going to be some teams that are not here next year.
I think the Warriors right now.
Warriors is a trending one. I think that's a pretty safe bet. And then how can you kick out the other 9? It's so hard.
Yeah.
It'll be close. I think it's going to be – obviously, it'll be similar to this year because there won't be that much movement. But it's going to be like this year where the, like, 5 through 12 seeds are just going to be fluctuating up and down. And we might have another year where we get more than half of the conference over our 500. So
I think we will.
Yeah.
I saw something today too that said I wonder if free agents like Paul George are looking at Eastern Conference teams now that it's weaker. If your goal is to get to your first NBA Finals, like as a free agent, isn't that more intriguing than re-signing with someone in the West?
Yeah,
that's true.
I didn't even think about that.
I think
Definitely
he's gonna go
be.
somewhere too because
Yeah.
the Clippers can't re-sign him and Harden. So they have a big decision to make. They could be a team that drops not necessarily all the way out because they'll have Kawhi still, but I think they'll drop down to maybe like in the play-in next year because I don't think they're going to be able to bring back their whole core. This is kind of their make or break year.
Yeah, it has to be. Like, I don't even really see James. Well, I don't. It's weird. It's just weird. Their team's constructed different.
Yeah, it's like like you said earlier with the role players, it's like the opposite of that. They have these names, and then after that, they kind of just pull production from whoever's on that day. But yeah, like you said, everyone leaves. It's like, well, we don't have the draft capital, we don't have the resources to kind of, salvage this situation. So it would be interesting in their new arena too to see, what direction they want to go in, because
they're gonna want to win. Their owner definitely wants.
I was
gonna
say Steve Ballmer definitely wants to be competitive in the first couple years of that arena being 100%. Built to just try to get people there.
That's why the Harden trade, if it was next year, would have been better for them as a franchise, just in the new arena, kind of establishing themselves. But it didn't work out like that. Now it's setting up to be, it might just be Kawhi there, or maybe Paul George or Harden stay. So then you have 2 stars, but you're not gonna have the 4 stars right now because Westbrook even is.
Yeah, that's
not an all-star anymore, but he's still like that caliber name to where he'll bring in fans.
I think they have role players. Terrence Mann is good.
He is.
He's a solid.
Zubac is solid.
Yeah.
Westbrook, Norman Powell could get you 30 on a random night. I think those players are good. I think the best solution for them is keep one, like we're always gonna have Kawhi, but keep one of James Harden or Paul George.
Yeah.
And try to sign one of these role players like Grayson Allen that just got signed, or.
I don't think they'll have money for that though.
That's true.
Even with like just re-signing one of the stars, I don't think they'll have money to go spend unless they have a mid-level. I'd have to look at their financials, but that's the challenge for them. It's like maybe they do a trade too, because maybe Norman Powell, like he's been really good, but maybe they think they're too guard heavy, so they trade him and get like a good forward or big off the bench.
Do they still have PJ Tucker, or did they trade him?
They have him. He gets very inconsistent minutes though.
Yeah, because he's been trying to get a trade for like the past like 3 months. But
no, he didn't play for like maybe a month, and then he came back against the Lakers for like 9 minutes and got cooked, and then went back on the bench. But yeah, their off season is gonna be crazy. Do we want to shift into awards now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so NBA awards, they're gonna be announced probably next week.
You want to start bottom down since we talked about the Bulls?
Yeah, we
can go right into.
So we'll go most improved player. Oh. And Ricky, I know you were talking about him, so we'll start with you.
Oh yeah, well, my most improved just off the game from yesterday. I'm not even keeping in stats. I just have Kobe White.
Yep.
I think I talked a lot about him. I like how his journey. I like how he stepped up, and he's gonna. Hopefully, he becomes one of those players next year, and in the rotation that's good, and defenses are taking notes on, or actually paying attention to. So, I have Kobe White.
I also have Kobe White, and I'll read off some of his numbers since you did not.
Yeah, go ahead, read off his numbers.
So last year, right, because it's most improved player, looking from last year to this year, how'd they jump? Last year, he was 9.7 points, 2.9 rebounds, 2.8 assists. This year, he's 19.1 points, 4.5 rebounds, 5.1 assists. So you're jumping 10 in points, 2 in rebounds, and 2 in assists, basically. That's just insane to do that in 1 year. He's gone from like a solid bench role player to a solidified like high-end starting guard. So just the way he's played, and obviously yesterday he proved it. Obviously that's not a factor since it's not a regular season game. The award voters won't look at that, but just like his stretch in the season too, even before that game, was crazy. So Kobe White's definitely my pick for the award.
What do you guys think about Maxey? I believe Maxey is closing as a betting favorite for the in the gambling world, but he's about a -105 favorite right now. No, I think Kobe White might be in second or third.
Yeah, no, Tyrese Maxey. I mean, he probably will get it just off the fact that he was the star on the team, because Joel Embiid was out pretty much through the back end of the year. But he was also going bananas. I mean, he deserves a lot of people deserve it. A lot of people deserve it this year. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Maxey would be probably my second choice for the award. But the reason I'm not like as high on him winning it is he didn't take like that huge jump. Like he was already really good, like almost all-star caliber player. Yeah. This year he took the leap to be at that level. So it's like he obviously improved a lot, but it's not as dramatic as Kobe White's.
Yeah, you're kind of waiting for him to break out and be that guy. And with Harden out, that was, could have been the plan the whole time. Yeah. So, nah, I totally get how a guy like Kobe White, It
was more like we seen it coming, or like everybody seen it coming.
They knew that his ceiling was that high.
Yeah, and he's a great leader too, like very good leader. Yep. See how he carries himself on the court and off the court. He's that guy.
Yeah. So, do you agree, Kobe White?
Kobe White or Maxey? I don't know that I've paid too close attention throughout the whole 82 game season to see like who's been hot, who's been cold, how the ladder has kind of fluctuated. So I'm letting you guys kind of take the wheel here. And Kobe White dropping 42 in a playoff game is just insane.
We'll play in, but
it
should count.
Play
should count as a
play in
it's
off.
Playoff
elimination.
It's postseason.
Playoff play in.
Postseason. Now we'll move on to Clutch Player of the Year. This one's kind of tough. There's like 3 guys that we were talking about before we got on. So I'll start with you again, Ricky. Who's your Clutch Player of the Year?
Yeah, I don't have no stats on this one either. Just off the dome.
Yep.
I'm gonna go DeJounte Murray. Off the fact that it was like a span, probably like a good 3 weeks straight consecutively. He had like a game winner, or like I seen on my phone that he had a game winner. It was, and he's the hometown hero. He's from Seattle, so I'm just gonna give it to him. There's probably other people that deserve it, but yeah, I gotta give it to him just off the fact.
Yeah, no, he's up there for sure on mine. and that was the time when he was hitting those was trade deadline D'Lo when D'Lo was going off.
That's exactly
versus the game winner DeJounte. So it was the debate for Lakers fans. Who would we rather want?
But neither of them were trying to get traded.
Yeah.
They were one-upping each other every game.
Yep. I think maybe Murray was trying to get traded. He's like, look at what I could do. But yeah, I gotta go DeMar DeRozan. Same thing. He's just multiple game winners this year. Again, I don't have like all of the clutch stats pulled up right now, but I know he's one of the favorites for the award, and he's just every time. It's like every year, he's one of the most clutch players in the league. And this year, I know, especially down the stretch, he was having huge games when the Bulls needed to get into that play-in. So I give it to DeRozan.
I'm not mad.
Do you have the betting favorites or anything?
Yeah, so to start us off, the betting favorite, Steph Curry, is minus 150 right now. I got Steph. I think, obviously he's the favorite, so, that maybe that's kind of a cop-out for me, but kind of being from the Bay Area and watching both the Kings and the Warriors my whole life, like, Steph never got the flowers for being the player that he is in the fourth quarter in clutch time. I think for a while there was a stigma that, during the big three like dynasty run, that he was like the least clutch out of all them, which is ridiculous. If you watch those full games, the reason why he doesn't have that many game winners or like buzzer beaters is because the Warriors will be up by 3 with 33 seconds left, and they'll go, the other team will go cut it to 1 point. Warriors will have like the possession with like 27 seconds left, so there'll be 3 seconds in between shot and game clock. And instead of, missing a shot, then they go to overtime, Steph hits a buzzer beater in overtime, he'll just hit a shot with 20 seconds left to ice the game.
Yeah.
And he does that so much that to kind of a casual NBA watcher who kind of looks at his stats or like field goal percentage in the last shot, it's low, but he's doing all these things and making all these plays down the stretch to kind of not even get them to that situation where they need to be taking the last shot. Yeah, he's 94.6% from the free throw line in clutch time, and I believe he led the league in clutch points with like 5.5 or some crazy stat like that. So yeah, I think ironically the year where no one's really talking about him for any other award, where in the past it was the other way around, is probably the year he's gonna get the most clutch players. So I got Steph.
So you're telling me with your life on the line, you're not gonna pick Andre Iguodala to hit the final,
aliens,
to hit the final shot?
Death being pointed. I'm taking Keegan Murray, guys. Yeah, Iggy's gotta come out, and 43 years old. Hey, you shoot one shot for the.
No, that's probably what it is. That's probably why everybody's mind is like that. How you said nobody really like thinks of Steph as like, well, I mean, real basketball players think of Steph as or not real basketball players. Real people that watch basketball think of Steph as a clutch player, but the outside people looking in probably don't think like that. It's because the Max Kellerman.
That's actually true. I didn't even think about that. That definitely is a factor.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy.
No, Steph's definitely been really, really good in clutch time this year. Yeah. He's all 3 of the guys we mentioned those are my top 3 for the awards. So I just barely give it to DeRozan over Steph,
and not even just clutch time too, but during the Kings game I felt this. When the other team's going on a run, he'll just get the ball and like sprint to the logo, and I swear he misses those shots a lot, but I swear if it's time to end a run, it goes in.
Yeah.
And like even that,
that's a big momentum shift.
It's huge. That's clutch. Even though it's not in the fourth quarter, it's clutch for keeping them in the game because you miss a couple of those shots down the stretch, all of a sudden the other team pulls away and it's over in the third. But he's so good at like just going out and getting a bucket when you need it, drawing crazy 4-point plays to just swing the momentum back, and he's such a like basketball mind, and he has such a good feel for the game that he knows when to turn it on and just kind of take over when they need to. He's got a great feel for the moment.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see who wins the award. And DeJounte, we looked at the odds as being very slept on. Like, he wasn't even top 3. So
yes. Sorry, I going back to that, Steph is the favorite at minus 150. I can't remember right now who's in second, but it's not very
It's
close.
DeRozan.
Actually, no, it is close. DeRozan is plus 120. So
I think either one of him
pretty
or
much
Steph will win.
yeah, pretty much a pick 'em there. But the last two candidates are that are long shots are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Damian Lillard for some reason is plus 8,000.
And I don't agree with Lillard this year.
Yeah.
Like in years past, for sure, 100%. But this year, not so much.
Yeah, superlatives definitely have made it to where he's kind of in that conversation. And DeJounte's not even in the top. He's not even you can't even bet on him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, yeah. Him being in the top 4 over someone like an SGA or a Dame is pretty wild. But Steph and DeRozan, probably down the stretch, it'll come down to those two.
Do we know exactly what they're looking at? Like, is it fourth quarter points?
Usually it's fourth
Clutch.
quarter and like clutch time.
Okay.
And I don't remember like all of the factors that go into it. I've seen it before, but
yeah, it's probably
last year it went to Fox and he had the most clutch points. So I think that's probably why it's gonna go to Steph. I feel like it's kind of not the best way to look at the award moving forward. I think it's just because it's such a new award, the voters haven't really figured out how they want to view it. So right now they're just like looking up who has the most fourth quarter points and then kind of going off that.
Yeah, see, that's a hard one because, like I was saying with the last award with Most Improved, it's kind of the same thing where you have to watch all the stretches throughout from the beginning to the end to know not just how that individual is doing during clutch time, but the environment that the team is in, game by game, night by night. If they're getting blown out or blowing other teams out, obviously that's why they're not going to have that many opportunities. Exactly. But in the opportunities that they do have down the stretch, maybe you got a guy who's really good.
I think that's kind of DeJounte because the Hawks weren't very good this year, but when they were close games, as you said, DeJounte was multiple game winners.
Yeah, but that makes it so that his average in clutch time points per game is less, like you were saying earlier. So, yeah, definitely maybe we'll see some evolution with,
That's what I think will happen over time. It'll kind of change how the voters look at
and that was a good point about it being new, too. So, people, are still trying to find how, what stats they want to base it off of.
Yeah.
Which is a good point.
Well, now we'll shift into Coach of the Year. And Ricky, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into this one, to be honest.
Okay.
To keep it all the way honest. But I like the OKC coach.
That's who I have.
Yep, I like the OKC coach. I mean, from playing last year to now being the number 1 seed, we kind of had I don't know the word, but we kind of knew that they were going to be good coming into this year. Not as good as they are right now, which is good. He's done a very good job, especially with Chet coming back. It was a new piece that they didn't have last year.
Integrating him.
It was kind of just perfect. They had no setbacks, no nothing. They were on go from the jump, which I really like.
Yeah, no, for sure. I picked them. I mean, they have a lot of young talent on their roster, but just the way he schemed them to all fit well together and take that jump from, like you said, play into the number 1 seed is just – that's why I'm picking him for Coach of the Year. And I know LeBron and JJ talked about him on their podcast recently, and they just talked about how smart of a coach he was, all the schemes and plays he comes up with. So I think if they're getting praise from them too, that's – he's a good coach, so he's my pick for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, he's definitely the favorite. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route, kind of go out on a flyer. I really like Jamal Mosley of the Orlando Magic, leading that squad who's, the Magic past couple years have had such a rough time. But they're kind of the first team out of that class of 2019-2020 teams that are really bad to emerge out of their rebuild as a playoff contender. And his first year was in 2021. They finished 22-60 that season. The next season, 22-23 season, they get Paulo his rookie year, 34-48, so already a big jump. And then to this year being in just, continuous growth, the Magic finish as a 5 seed at 47-35. So from his first year to the second year to this year now, and pretty much keeping the same core too. They made a couple small ads. We talk about Joe Ingles all the time on this podcast. I don't know why we talk about him so much on this, but
impactful vet.
Yes, we love Joe Ingles on this, the Joe Ingles Report podcast. But the Orlando Magic, Jamal Mosley has taken that team of youngsters and turned them into very polished. Their defensive numbers and metrics are really good this year, and that I think is what stands out the most, especially nowadays where it's kind of hard to, have really good team defense if you don't just have the talent and the size and like we see with the Timberwolves. But yeah, I like Jamal Mosley. Took that young team and turned them into a force.
He was definitely my second choice for the award. I kind of went back and forth between them. Like you said, just how he's been able to take that team to grow. And Franz Wagner and Paolo have definitely benefited from his coaching and the vets they brought in, like Joe Ingles, again, bringing him up.
Let's go.
He's just a good coach. I mean, they're the 5 seed this year. I think they have a shot to win their first-round matchup,
I agree.
Against Cleveland. So
matchup.
they're definitely a bright spot in the East right now that kind of has some teams down low that I don't know how well they're going to perform. I feel like Orlando's kind of that upcoming young team that could maybe even go top 3 seed next year. Well, now we'll move on to the 6th man of the year. And Jalen, we'll start with you because I know you got a good pick.
Yes, I think Sacramento's own Malik Monk is going to take home that award. He missed a couple games at the end of the season. And we kind of saw, that team's performance just kind of decline because all the lineups were messed up, I think, which speaks to the impact that he's had, especially off the bench, being the first guy off the bench and also going out there and closing games too when he needs to. I think the biggest thing, I know I haven't brought up any numbers. I think he's about 15.5 points per game off the bench, which is the most in the NBA. I don't know who you guys have second, but anyway, back to Monk. The thing that stands out the most, just, following Sacramento all year, I mentioned how Steph can go out and get a bucket when he senses the momentum is shifting. Monk, I think, is that guy for the Kings, especially down the stretch, late in the game. If you just need 2 points to tie the game or get some momentum back, the other team's making a run, he's the guy who you bring in, and you can kind of just let him work, and he'll go get you a bucket. Whether it's an open three, that he's so good on open threes in clutch time, whether it's one-on-one, pick and roll, getting to the hoop, mid-range shot, he always comes up pretty big in those spots, and he's a big factor to why that Kings team had so much success past 2 years. And I think he's going to get his flowers, and after being a really good piece last year and run away with it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Malik Monk's game. He's a bucket. He's just one of those clear out, get out the way.
Yeah.
Bucket, but
he's got so many dunks of the years too, like
100%.
Candidates. Oh my God, he's got bunnies.
Yeah. I'm taking Naz Reid. I like Naz Reid just off the fact that when Karl Anthony Towns got injured, I personally thought that they were gonna drop a lot in the West, but him coming in and stepping up and not exactly taking the role that Karl Anthony Towns had, but just being that extra scorer or extra rebounder or extra defender, whatever they needed to win games.
A Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, Swiss Army knife, and he really did a good job at that. They obviously had Anthony Edwards, which is a good player, very good player, and Rudy Gobert, but he completed, I honestly thought they were gonna drop very low, like super low, once he came out, and they were winning games and they were in games with good teams like Denver and whoever else they're playing, OKC, and so yeah, I have Naz Reid for my 6th man.
I have Malik Monk, but Naz Reid is right there at second. Kind of like you mentioned, Jalen, just he comes up when they need him to.
Yeah, totally.
De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis obviously get most of the attention for opposing teams, and then Monk's like their X factor. Like if he rattles off a 30-point game, like that could be huge in getting a win. He comes up in the right moments, and he could score at all 3 levels, which is huge. I think his impact for the Kings, like you said, we saw just how they struggled down the stretch after him and Herter went down. I feel like if it was just Herter, they would have been fine.
I agree.
But losing both of them and Monk's scoring production, like that was tough, and thrusting Keon Ellis into such a big role. Naz Reid, like you said, stepped up in Cat's absence, so that's why it's really close. Like you could go either way. I debated with it for a while, but Monk's my pick for that award.
I understand. I mean, he was leading the bench in points, or 6-man points, and he's a good player. Like you said, if he didn't go out, they definitely probably would have been
They probably would have been 7-8.
Yeah,
maybe even
probably,
higher.
Yeah,
maybe
they'll
6.
probably maybe not even have to play the playing game.
But Keon Ellis, he did a good job. He
stepped up
did.
in that game, as a 3-and-D guy. He was knocking down open shots, which is just what we need him to do. He's such a good defender. He pickpocketed Curry like crazy. There was a steal in that game that he made.
A couple like huge steals.
Unbelievable like steals. His length, such a big factor. Undrafted too. He's a grinder, and we just need him to knock down open threes. Yeah. He's gonna get so many open looks in this run.
I remember I did a mock draft a couple of years ago for clutch points. I was writing one, and I had the Kings taking Keon Ellis in the second round, and they ended up not taking him but picking him up.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool to see him fitting on the team. But yeah, he's been huge. He's going to be big in that playing game. I know we already talked about that.
He's one of the X factors for sure.
Yeah. Now we'll move on to Defensive Player of the Year, which I think Ricky and I might be unanimous with our pick.
Yeah. I have Rudy Gobert. I don't have the defensive metrics right now, but just off the eye test, he's forced to be reckoned with. I mean, we talk about him all the time about like the stuff he does and the antics, and I don't think he's really that liked in the league. But they definitely, when they look at the film, they definitely see him there for sure.
Yep.
He's definitely a problem. I think it was between him or Wemby, just off the fact that Rudy Gobert or their team is better, and I think his defensive stats might slightly be better than Wemby's, just off how they play. That's what I'm picking, Rudy, for my Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I have Rudy Gobert too. Wemby and AD were behind him. He's just the anchor to their defense, and it's one of the top defenses. Again, I don't have the metrics up, but they might even be the top defense in the league.
So hard to score against them.
Yeah, he just eliminates the paint. And he's getting better on the perimeter. That's still not a strength for him. With Wemby and AD, I'll talk about that briefly. I think why they're so much lower than Gobert in the odds is the talent around them on the perimeter isn't as good. So Gobert, like when people look, they're like, okay, he's the best defensive player on their team, and they're one of the top defenses. Wembanyama and AD, when they're on the floor, are like very impactful, and when they're off, you could tell like the defense just shifts completely. But because of not having a great elite perimeter defender, like the Timberwolves have Jaden McDaniels, and then the Lakers have the backcourt of D'Lo and Reeves, which is great offensively, not great defensively. Wemby, who knows what the Spurs are doing? They throw out all kinds of lineups. So I feel like in like maybe next year, if Wemby gets a better like team defense around him, he'll win the award. But for right now, Gobert just anchoring one of the top defenses in the league. He's gonna keep winning the award until someone else is able to get in the top 10.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think Gobert as well. I'm in agreement with you three, but I was gonna talk about Wemby, which it will kind of transition.
And it's his rookie year too. That's the crazy part.
It'll kind of transition into Rookie of the Year, but I think there's a lot of buzz, and I'm on board with, right now Wemby's a rookie, so we're gonna lean towards Gobert a little bit, even though the eye test he's just insane. Uses his length so well. And then after that, the Defensive Player of the Years are going to start to roll in. And then after that, the MVPs will start to roll in, which, I think that's very, very possible. That next year, with the Spurs maybe adding a couple pieces in the offseason and trying to compete too in the West, and like you said, maybe having a little bit better product on the court for all 4 quarters is really going to,
that's all he needs.
Yeah, put a spotlight on his paint protection, because it's just ridiculous, some of the blocks that he gets, some of the angles that he takes to contest, and blocking guys' shots off jump shots, and kind of just getting his fingers on the ball. It's insane. So next year, I think there'll be a close magnifying glass with him with that award too. But yeah, Gobert probably running away with it this year.
And I think Anthony Davis is going to go down as one of the best defenders to never win Defensive Player of the Year.
I agree. His paint protection is.
Do you think if Vando was playing, do you think it would be better for him?
I think he'd have a better chance for sure. I don't know if we'd be starting Vando with how well Ruiz played. It's tough. In 2020, I think he should have won the award over Giannis, because AD had better numbers and the Lakers were a higher ranked defense, but AD got second that year, which still doesn't make sense to me. I feel like that was his time to win it. But Yeah, it's really tough for him because he's just so good on defense. He could switch 1 through 5. Teams just don't want to go in the paint when he's down there, and I just don't think he's ever going to get the award because now I think Wemby is going to go on a big run of winning the award. So I think he's going to go down one of the best defensive players never to win the award, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, that's definitely possible, which is crazy to think about because he is such a good paint protector, and he's so big for that team.
And he's had plays where he switches out on like Curry and is able to stop him at the 3-point line. So it's like the versatility too. I feel like very valuable. Yeah. But he'll never win it probably. Maybe next year. Maybe he gets it.
Yeah,
that's probably his last chance.
Yeah, and he'd have to really, like, being so consistent with all the numbers and his defensive metrics that he puts up is so impressive. But yeah, he'd really have to take that next step of being like jaw-dropping, moments and numbers for him to run away with it too. So
we'll go into Rookie of the Year, which I already know is unanimous. Because there's no argument.
He's a freak.
It's Wemby.
Yeah.
Just such a good year. I mean, he could do it all, and he's 7'4". Like, I don't know. He's the future of the league.
I think that the expectations that everybody had of him, of being a certain type of player, a 3-level scorer, as you mentioned, as a 7'4" guy, people couldn't wrap their head around that. So it was easy to be like, okay, yeah, he's going to struggle. He needs to put on size. Joel Embiid and Giannis and guys like that are going to body him down low. But to watch him make the strides that he made just like physically and how comfortable he was making moves from the beginning of this year to the end now, he looks like a vet
100%.
With the stuff that he
does. And
he
speaks like a vet too. He's very humble.
Yeah, that's part of that European upbringing that he's had, being around, older guys playing against older competition, forced to be a pro early in his life, helps with how he carries himself. And I think that's a nice breath of fresh air with kind of the environment we have in sports right now of the more you open your mouth, it directly correlates to how much money you make, which, sometimes is not the most attractive thing as a sports fan. So to kind of see Wemby, I just saw an Instagram post today about how like Drake wanted him at like a concert or something.
I saw that too.
And he was trying to get the team going, and Drake was like, "No, dude, we just want you," and he didn't go because of that. And I got pretty fired up when I saw that too. I like team guys like that. I like guys who want to win, and he will win Rookie of the Year this year.
100%.
Yeah. Will rack up the awards in the next.
It should be
years.
unanimous too across the voters.
He exceeded my expectations. The first 30 games, I do say I did have Chet winning.
It was a battle. It was a battle.
Chet, he was also.
He'll be second. 100%.
But Wemby's averaging double in his rookie year. I mean, he might be the first dude to like average like 8-9 blocks a game, like soon, like in the next 4 years, which is insane.
I don't know about that much.
I mean, I don't know the way he's.
I think he could get up to 4, maybe a little above 4, but 8 to 9 is a lot. But
I'd love to see it.
He's that good of a player. You never know. You never know.
Some of the stuff I seen this year was crazy, and the fact that he played pretty much like almost all the games was impressive to me. I didn't know I thought he wasn't gonna play.
That was my main concern when everyone was hyping him up. Was like, is he gonna be able to stay on the floor? Because we saw it with Chet when he was supposed to have his rookie year last year. He went down playing a game in the summer. But this year Chet was really healthy too, so I think both of them have really done a good job with, even though they're not necessarily like the traditional center build, they're staying on the floor.
Going back to the injury thing and him staying on the floor, that just reminded me. I went to go watch his first Summer League game. I was in Vegas that weekend, and right before the game I made my predictions for his stats. I just found it in my notes. So the summer version of me thought Victor Wembanyama was going to average 19.2 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2.5 blocks. But the big thing for me, right under that, I put that he was going to play 33 games. Like, that was just one of my predictions. I was like, I think it's going to be, kind of Chet-like, where it was going to be, the Spurs aren't going to contend. We're going to see this guy show flashes of scariness, and then we're not going to get to see it for the rest of the year. So, yeah, to your point, it's a treat for fans to be able to see that growth that he's had not from year 1 to year 2, but from the beginning of his year 1 season to the end of the year 1 season.
100%.
Which is, even more props to him for that, rate of growth is crazy.
And his averages ended up being 21.4 points, 10.6 rebounds, 3.9 assists. He played in 71 games.
Yeah.
So,
Woo.
and 3.6 blocks per game.
Yeah, he went crazy with
in limited minutes.
He might be 6.
Maybe you're
6
right.
blocks, 7
Maybe
blocks,
he will
bro,
go
I'm
up
telling
that
you.
high. You're right, because they were limiting his minutes this year.
He might get a couple quadruple doubles next year. It's gonna be some
Man.
wild.
so scary.
Yeah,
For this league.
bro.
It's gonna totally alter how teams play them too. Like if he does start to average crazy block numbers, the shots of other teams in that area is just gonna go down, and that's such a hard team to match up against too. If they pick up a Trae Young, if they pick up a wing.
Oh,
Yeah. Do
Dude,
you think
Can you
now
believe
we're gonna
how tough
have?
of a matchup that's gonna be?
Do you think now we're gonna have teams going to look at huge bigs again, get rid of the small ball just because of how Wemby's gonna be?
Yeah.
Because we got Edie coming into the draft. I feel like a team that wants to match up with the Spurs, he'd be someone you
That's
want.
true.
Is he gonna be able to guard him on the perimeter though? That's the thing.
I don't know. That's the tough part.
Because Wemby could play out in the perimeter.
You're right.
And
That's why it's
off
gonna be
fast
so
break,
tough.
because his fast break game is crazy too.
Yep.
He runs. So
It's kind of
I
a
don't know.
nightmare scenario.
It's
He's a
really bad.
unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really just got it can't just be one I don't think one person can. You gotta.
But he's already averaging 4 assists as a rookie too. That's the
That's
problem.
scary too.
If he gets better as a
Oh, my
passer
Lord.
too.
And he could see he could see everything. Bro.
Yeah.
He probably will become a good pass. Bro's good.
Yeah, like we said, he'll be defensive player of the year probably next year. He'd be my pick right now. And MVP's coming up definitely in the next 5 years or
Yeah,
so.
definitely. I agree.
Well, speaking of MVP, let's shift to the MVP.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to start with Ricky. Who is your MVP for this season?
Okay, who I think the NBA is going to pick is Jokic.
Okay.
He's having double season, almost triple season.
Yep.
He leads the league in player efficiency rating and plus and minus. He's probably been leading that the last couple years.
Yeah.
This dude is he's one of a kind, as we talked about in the other podcast. Denver's such a hard team to match up with, and
100%.
it's gonna be difficult. They're kind of like the Chiefs right now. Who I want to win? Luka. Yeah, I want Luka to win. I don't think he's going to win just off the fact the record, but you can't even say the record because the West is so stacked. It's tough. But I think he deserves to win. Luka deserves to win. Shea, I think deserves to win too, but that's neither here nor there. I think the NBA is gonna have Jokic getting this year's MVP.
Yes. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I think
Oh, my bad.
I agree. I totally agree with you. I think any other year, Luka Doncic is gonna win this award with 34 points. You talked about how Jokic is almost averaging a triple double. Luka is .0 whatever
Yeah.
away from averaging a triple double. He's got 9.8 assists and I think 9 flat rebounds with 34 points is just unbelievable. Second highest field goal percentage in his career at 48.7 and the highest 3-point percentage at 38%. That's unbelievable. I think the record definitely has an impact, but it shouldn't because the Mavs are a playoff team, not avoid the play-in team that finished hot down the stretch, partly because of the play of Luka Doncic. Luka had a 60-ball, just unreal season, and Jokic was just so quiet in how he did it because we've assumed that he's gonna go do this every night, which is crazy in its own right. So we've just got so much talent in the NBA. There's even the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place guys in other years. You put them there and they're gonna win it. But yeah, off the top of my dome, I think Luka. You'd think he's gonna win it, but I agree. I think Jokic will probably take home his 3rd MVP too.
So I think Shea is going to win it from the NBA.
Ooh.
Because I saw this morning his odds are now number 1 on the ladder.
That's
He
good.
moved up on.
He
to number
deserves
1.
it. He deserves it.
For sure he does.
And Luka is 3. My pick would be Luka. If I was a voter, I would go Luka. Like you said, the average is almost a triple double. And I want to get more into the record thing. So the Thunder and the Nuggets are 1 and 2. They're tied for the same record. The Mavericks are 5th. Like, they're not that far off.
Yeah.
Jokic has won an MVP as a 6th seed just because he had really great numbers. That was his first or second MVP. Luka has the best numbers of these 3 guys. And he's on a 50-win team. If the award's just going to become, okay, whoever's the best player on the best team in the conference, like, I feel like that shouldn't be how it's done.
I agree.
It needs to be, like, how are they impacting their team? All 3 players are deserving of the award, but I feel like Luka deserves it the most. And he's not going to get it just because the Thunder and the Nuggets were ahead in the standings. But if you look at the second half when they finally got him, like, a competent role players to go with Kyrie Irving, they were probably one of the best records second half of the season, maybe even the best.
They probably did have the best record out of all the teams in the whole NBA.
P.J. Washington was a great addition.
So he finally has the talent that Shea and Jokic have had, like a good built team around them. And he shot up the standings from like the bottom of the play-in to the 5th seed. And they're only 7 games off of being the same record. So for me, Luka's should be the winner, but he's not going to get it.
I think the voters are ultimately looking at, like, you had Kyrie, bro. Like, you had Kyrie.
But you could do that with all of the teams.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, yeah, you can. Definitely. I do think that Shea is deserving of it.
Shea's definitely
he's deserving of it.
He'd be my number. I'd have Jokic at 3 if I were a voter.
No, for sure. I think Jokic is obviously the safe bet. I think the NBA, if the NBA does decide to pick Jokic this year, they're going to have to reset the way they vote. Just off the fact that it's like, you gotta, especially with how the skill gap is becoming more even, you have to kind of give a different answer as far as the MVP voting goes, because, I mean, at this point, Jokic could win every year, like, you know?
Totally.
So, and then we're gonna be like, oh, why didn't LeBron win all those MVPs that he deserved?
Exactly.
Prior,
yeah.
Yeah,
so,
no, they definitely, he had MVPs he deserved that they were just like voter fatigue. They didn't want to vote him anymore.
Yeah.
And even going back to last year, right? Embiid won, and they were the 3 seed, and the Nuggets were the 1 seed. So to me, it's like, I don't know why the voters change like their style every year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now that you mention it, because I remember last year thinking around this time that, yeah, Embiid's going to win it, but I would vote for Jokic. I remember thinking that last year. And now I'm kind of in a similar spot where it switches. I think with Jokic maybe being the favorite this year, I just thought of this. You guys can totally disagree. But doesn't it kind of feel like we're almost correcting ourselves as fans? Like the voters are almost saying, hey, look, we know he deserved it last year. We're going to take into account the fact that we maybe robbed him last year into him winning it this year. Hey guys, this is Jalen from the future talking to you guys. We had a couple technical issues go down, but we really liked all the content that we, put out for this episode. So we're going to leave you folks with a cliffhanger on our MVP awards, but we will start the next episode off with the MVP before we roll into whatever we have on that agenda. But yeah, besides that, hope you guys made it to the end here to get to talk to me, and hope you enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for next week's episode, and the class is dismissed.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Report podcast. Be sure to check out our Instagram @the Sports Report Pod for more content and to never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.
Score!